Back to the Crochet Karate. So as my friends at yarnspirations.com, today's the Clover Cluster Fan Stitch. It is a really great little pattern. I can see this is very shawl worthy. It's almost lacy. And when I've tried it with different other yarns, you can see exactly how it will turn out. Very neat, and also including a solid, so I got to practice on that. So it's a really neat concept, and to change the size of this, it's in multiples of 18 plus 2. Now the problem with this particular stitch is that you end up with a really nice cascading on this side, but this side is not so much. And so what I will tell you today is that this fan here, you can apply. So what I did with this particular example, if I look at it from this perspective, is that I started and I went up, but then I turned over the project around, and then I started crocheting that same row on the existing one here, and so then I can have a mirrored version of this. So if you wanted this, for example, like a scarf, maybe you just want a little piece like this, you would have the beautiful cascading coming down on the one side, but if you added stitches to this side, you could have the cascading on the other, and you probably would not need a lot of rows in order to make that happen. And on this particular example, I decided to really go gung-ho on that. Really kind of a neat idea, and we're going to get started immediately, and there's some stitches that you need to know in order to get yourself started, and then you can repeat this stitch combination over and over and over. Let's begin. So let's begin. We're going to go in multiples of 18 plus 2. So you go 18, 18, 18 until you're happy, and then you'll add 2 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So there is one fan there. So if you want to go more, just add another 18, and so on and so on. And you can measure that up against something that you would like to match for a size. So I'm just going to do it a couple more times, and I'll be right back in just a moment. And at the end of the row, we have to add 2 more chains. So I've been doing the multiples of 18, and now I'm happy with the length, so I'm just going to add 2 more chain, and everything is good. So I actually technically have 3 fans here. Let's begin row number 1. To begin row number 1, I want you to go second chain from the hook, count it back, so 1 and 2, and turn it over and get the back hump of the chain. And especially if you want to add something to the other side of this, it'll be a lot nicer for you to be able to attach something else to it. So just 1 single crochet in each one of the chains all the way back to the other side, and I'll be right back in just a moment. Once you're at the end of the chain, you're just going to keep on moving and finish. And I'm going to tell you something in just a moment. So turn your work, and before you go on, I want you to do something to the work just in case you want to add something to the other side. So once we start the cascading of the fans going up, if you want to turn it around and do the underside, what I'm going to recommend is put in a stitch marker right here. So if you cannot tell which row number 2 will be the right side, I'd recommend, once it's turned like this, just put in a stitch marker, and it's just a spare piece of yarn, and just loop it through. So whenever you see the tail end of this stitch marker, you're looking at the right side of the work, and so when you turn it around like this, you don't really see it. That's the wrong side. So if you want to start and do row number 2 and start building it up on the opposite side of this chain, as long as the right side's facing up, it'll work. So row number 2 that I'm about to start can be done either on this side or this side, but we're going to continue up, and if you want to add more later, you can. So let's begin row number 2. To start row number 2 is just chain up 1, and you were going to single crochet in the first, and it's a nice easy repeating going all the way across. You were going to skip 2 stitches, and in the third one away, you want to put 5 double crochet in there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You were then going to skip 2 stitches and come to the third. Where I put the stitch marker is just where I put it. There's no rhyme or reason to why it's exactly at that stitch. So we're going to single crochet. Skip the next 2 and put 5 double crochet into the next. And you'll do that all the way across, and I will see you at the end of the row. So if you are restarting this and building up on the opposite side of the chain, okay, then when you turn it over, as long as the right side's facing up, you'll start on this side and do the same thing going across this side on the bottom end. Okay, so you can just do that if you wish. And so after those 5 are in, skip 2, single into the next, and so on, and do that all the way across for row number 2. So I'm coming up all the way to the end, so skipping 2, and I am putting 5 double crochets here. Now somebody's going to ask me how you do this in a square or rectangle. I really honestly don't know. I only know how to do it in rows. So I'm sure somebody's going to ask that. Once you come all the way there, you're going to skip 2 and you'll single crochet into the very end. So the way that I've just done this is not going to be quite the same as we do it next time. This one's been equally spaced all the way across, but the next time we do these, they will be slightly different. Let's move on to your next row. To move on to the next row, we're going to start and we're going to begin starting to build out these fans even more. Some of the fans will be building out while other ones will be just kind of puzzling into place. To start, we're going to chain 3 and that will be your first double crochet. And in the same one that that's coming out of, you want to put in 2 double crochet. The next fan has 5 double crochets in it. Single crochet into the third one away, which is the middle one of the grouping of 5. We're now going to apply a fan that will expand on this particular shell. Before we start though, we have to chain 1, and we're going to apply a puff stitch into the very first one of the grouping of 5. And so yarn over and in, pull through, and then yarn over and in, pull through. And once you have that done, you are going to yarn over and pull through everything but the final one, and then pull through the final 2. And that's just a puff stitch on its own. Now we're going to do the clover stitch, which is considered a cluster because they will all work together. To move on, you need to chain 2 and apply a clover stitch over the first one that this is sitting in and the next one. How you do that is that you yarn over and going into the first one, pull through, yarn over and in, pull through. And then you are going to come into your very next one and do the same thing. So yarn over and in, pull through, and yarn over and in, pull through. So you've now just expanded over 2 stitches, and the first one is sharing the first puff stitch. You are going to yarn over and pull through everything but the final. And then yarn over, pull through the final. And so this is a clover stitch. It has 2 there and it's sharing the first one. So now we're going to do the clover cluster stitch over the remaining all the way to the other side of this fan. So to move on, chain 2, share the first one that's already has something, and then the next one. So yarn over and into the first, and do that twice. And then do the next one, same thing. So yarn over and in, pull through, yarn over and in, pull through. Pull through everything but the first loop on the hook, and then yarn over, pull through. Chain 2 to move on, and keep doing that. See these clovers? There's a total of 4 of those by the time you're finished this particular fan. So we're going to come into the first one, we come into the next one, we pull through everything but the final, and pull through 2. So we're going to chain 2 to move on. So we got this one and this last one. Okay, come into the last one here. Pull through everything but the final 2, and then pull through 2. But you're not done. You know how we started off with the puff stitch on its own? We're going to chain 2 and we're going to finish the same last one with the puff stitch. So just one by itself, one puff on its own. And before you can move on, you need to chain 1, and then see this next fan, you're going to come to the middle. So we're in this fan and we look at this one. So this is between the fans. So the middle single crochet right here is going to have 5 double crochets in it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And see this next fan right here? It's a single crochet in the middle. Whenever I've screwed up on my sample that I did before, I always forgot about this one here that is separating because this fan still has to grow outward. I'm going to take you through one more fan here. I'll just keep my descriptions to a minimum. To start, chain 1, puff stitch in the first one. To move on, chain 2 and clover, starting in the first one and the second. Pull through everything but the final. Pull through 2 to finish. Chain 2 to move on and start the next one in the one that exists plus this one. And you're doing a clover. Studio door is open today. It's beautiful out. Chain 2 to move on. So clover. And the next one. Pull through everything but the final 2. Chain 2. So we have this one and this one. So there's a total of 4 clovers in this row of fans. If you drop it, just restart. Chain 2, and what are we missing? The final puff stitch that is existing right here. So we do that one that's sitting on its own. And before we can go to this one, we have to chain 1, and then we just have to single crochet in the top, and then we're back into the middle section like I showed you before here. So we're going to apply 5 double crochet into the middle, and you're going to restart and do your fans just like I showed you. Just remember on this row, and this row alone, is that before you start a fan, okay, so you single in the top, the middle one here, you always have to chain 1 before you start doing your fans with the clovers, and then you finish with the chain 1 after it's done to be able to move on. You'll see that that's missing in the future. So go all the way across, and I'll see you at the end of the row in a moment. So I'm coming to the other side. I'm just finishing the puff stitch before this fan is ending. And I have to chain 1, and I have to come to the top of the middle one here, but we're not quite done. So in the very last stitch of this one here, you need to apply only 3 double crochet, and that will give you a balance. Just like that. So now you have nice spans, so these things will fill in with these fans getting bigger, and they will eventually run into each other, which you'll see happening in the next row. So let's begin the next row. So let's begin. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet, and now we're going to apply the fans, and the fans will almost reach each other. So we're going to start into the first one here. This is the puff stitch, and so you're going to match it and make it a puff stitch. And now you're going to chain 2, and now the clover stitch will be in this stitch plus the top of this next one right here. So yarning over, and you're going to do your clovers into the first one, and then jump to the second one. Once you have that all complete, pull through, and pull through 2 to finish, and chain 2 to move on. So the clover is going to be in this one, plus the new next one. So you'll see that these clover stitches, the legs are spread further apart, which is very desirable in how it looks. So in this particular row, there's going to be 5 clovers that are complete on top of these fans, if you want to count those. Okay, and you keep adding these clovers until you're getting close to the other side of this fan. And are you going to apply 1 puff stitch on your own at the end? Absolutely. So you really just have to move your hands out of the way just to be able to see your stitches. So this is the very last one here. Chain 2, and you got to apply a puff that's going to sit by itself. So when you look at it from this perspective, you can see how many clovers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's a puff stitch on each side. You're then going to just reach on over to the middle one here, and you are going to single crochet. So you can see that it got a lot wider, and then you're going to immediately start another fan just like you did this one. So I'll get you started, and then you can do the rest of the row on your own. So at the top of this puff stitch, make it a puff. Chain 2, and then clover over top of these two. Chain 2 to move on, and keep on clovering. It's not even a real word, but who cares, right? Okay, so you keep on doing that until you get to the very last one, and you'll have your 5 clovers. You'll puff into the very final one once you get there, like you did here. And you're going to continue this all the way across. So this is this row, and I'll be back in just a moment. When you get to the other side, after the last puff is in, you're just going to come to the top of the turning chain and single crochet in, and therefore that row is complete. Just like that. Let's turn our work and do your next row. The next row is just straight single crochet across the top. You know that there's chain 2 spaces, so each one of the chain 2 spaces will have 2 single crochets in it. So if there's a stitch, apply a stitch. If there's spaces, apply the same number of stitches that the stitch equals. So you're just going to chain 1 and apply 1 single crochet in the first 2 stitches, and then you end up running into a space already. So this is chain 2, so it has to be 2 singles, and then this is a stitch again, so that's just 1 into the stitch, and then 2 singles, and you'll do that same principle all the way across. So just make sure that you put the number of stitches into the spaces that equals the same size of the space that's below. Okay, and this helps separate those fans out and gives it a really good visual look. And as you get to the center point here, so you got your center, so it's the top of the puff, we have the single, and then you'll end up with a puff again, and then you're back to doing the spaces all over again. Please do this all the way across. So I'm coming all the way to the other side, just did my magic with the single crochets, and you'll see that this worked out really quite nicely. So this would be the end of a sequence if you were to finish something. Okay, so this single crochet here. So if you wanted to add anything to row number 2, again, you just start with these fans. Now I told you before is that these fans went in at an equal distance. It's now going to change going forward to add more. So let's just turn our work and let's talk about that. When we go to start adding those fans back to the top of this, there's going to be a skipping of 3 stitches here and skipping of 3 stitches here, but everything in the middle here is always just a skipping of 2 stitches in between those. And what's happening is that because it's coming down, it has to make room for those stitches. So just keep an eye on that. So there's always going to be 3 of those fans sitting on top of one of these. So to start, you're going to begin by chaining 1 and applying 1 single crochet in there. So we have to skip 3 here and go to the 4th, and we're going to apply 5 double crochet. So it's like what we've done before. The difference is that the spacing when you go to start a new fan is different. Skip 2 and come to the 3rd one away here, and you were going to chain 1 single crochet. Skip 2 and come to the 3rd one, and you'll apply 5 double crochet. This is the middle one of the grouping of 3, just so you know. Skip just 2 and single crochet the next, and do 1 more fan that's sitting on top of this one, and skip 2 and put 5 double crochet there. So you can see we've just now come across this fan. So normally what we would have done is skip 2, but we're in the wrong section, so we have to skip 3. And we're going to single crochet into the 4th one away. Okay, so it's always the ending and the beginning that has us skipping a 3 only. So to start a new one, skip 3. So 1, 2, 3, come to the 4th, and just start applying your 5 double crochets there. Skip 2 and single crochet to the next. Skip 2 and put 5 double crochets into the next. Skip 2, single crochet in the next. Skip 2, 5 double crochets in the next. So this is the 3rd grouping of the 5 double crochet. So at the end of this one, if this is the end of this fan, then what's going to happen is that you'll skip 3 and you'll single crochet in the next. And you'll do the same thing to restart again, so skipping 3 and apply across the top, and I'll see at the end of the row in just a moment. So just continue to repeat that, and you should visually see everything's kind of in sets of 3. When you come to the end of the row, you're skipping 3 and you'll single crochet into the very last one, and that's just a matter of keeping in the sequence. So now you're ready to restart the first grouping of the fans all over again, and I will just take you and get yourself started, and then you can just repeat this until the cows come home. Let's turn our work and begin that. So last time we started this, it looked relatively flat because it was, and so this time you can see the up and down motion, but it's still the same information. So you're going to chain 3 and you'll put in 2 more double crochet into there. And the first shell here, you're going to just apply 1 single crochet into the top, and then this here will be the spanning out right here. So to start that, you're going to chain 1 first and then apply a puff into the first one, and then chain 2, and then do your clovers from what you know it to be. Okay, and then you chain 2 and you continue that same motion. So I'm just going to continue to go and keep adding the clovers so that you understand what we're going to do when we get in between these groups of 3. It's what you already know, but you may need a refresher. And chain 2. Chain 2. Okay, and then chain 2, and there has to be a puff into the last one. Chain 1 before you do anything and come to the middle one here, and then you're going to come into here. Chain, sorry, don't chain, just double crochet 5 times into this one down here. This one I kept missing when I was doing my sample. And I was missing it and I wasn't realizing it until I was close to the end, and I had to frog a lot of stuff. So just keep an eye on those. You may even want to put a stitch marker at this part so that you can always see it to remind yourself too. Then you'll just come into the middle one here and put in a single crochet, and then you'll chain 1 and then continually add your clovers as you go all the way across. So that's the only thing that is really the hardest part on this thing, and it's just once you get moving on this thing and understand it and your tension works, this stitch is amazing and good to go. We hope you enjoy, and we'll see you again another time.